welcome.
Thank you. It's a real honor to be able to ask you a question.
Where are you calling from?
Calling from London.
Okay.
And I want to ask a question on the theme of feeling powerless. And there are two things in my life that are creating this feeling at the moment. And one of the things it's hard to talk about, so I will try to talk about it. But so what brought me into mindfulness was last year. When I was 5 months pregnant, I lost my baby. And I can't really talk about everything that happened because it was just really traumatic and really hard. And it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. And I think I practiced mindfulness at the moment, not really fully understanding what mindfulness was because I was in so much pain. Now the only thing I could do was to sit with that pain and just to wait until it became something that I could still function and live with, because the pain never goes away and you just learn to live with it. And it was only later when I had other complications that happened. Basically, also what happens when you lose a baby quite suddenly is that your body can sometimes have a very bad reaction, and it can cause complications, which can, if I had to have quite a lot of surgeries, and now I've got scarring, which might mean I might never become pregnant again. And I'm 42 years old, and that's a big deal to me because I not only fell in love with Leander, and that's why it says Leander in spirit, but I also fell in love with motherhood.
Yeah.
And it's so painful, not only losing him, but also now trying to come with terms of losing motherhood as well. And it was Dr. Lau at UCLH, who was a psychologist, that suggested, I talked to her about mindfulness, and she suggested that might be a way for me to help me. So I took the MBSR program, and it's been incredibly helpful. And during the program, I also realized that there's another theme of powerlessness in my life, and it was my job. And I decided to quit my job because I'm a female working in tech. I'm a female minority working in tech, and I'm in a leadership position, and where I'm continuously undermined. And it was incredibly difficult when I have an ongoing feeling of powerlessness in my life and what's going on, which I have to come to accept because it's nothing I can control. But to also have that same feeling with my job, I realized this is not a good way to survive. So I made that decision, and I'm trying to also now find a new job and trying to feel powerful again. But it's so hard because I am functioning in a society where there is so much implicit bias, and I'm often underestimated. And I'm just wanting to understand, I know in the sense of what happened to me physically and losing my beautiful boy, that there's nothing I can do. And with that powerlessness, I have to accept it. On the other hand, with my career, it's a powerlessness that I do not want to accept. And I want to understand how to use mindfulness in a way to kind of find that inner strength to fight. Because I think it's a thing that's happening around the world, that we all, the people that are feeling oppressed, we need to fight back and we need to stand up, because I think people are listening now.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to understand, I suppose, how to deal with these feelings of powerless in these different ways.
How do you pronounce your name?
Chanuki.
Chanuki. Well, first of all, I'm just so sorry for what you've been through and the loss of your beautiful baby. I mean, there's nothing that, can attenuate those feelings, nor should there be. I mean, this is part of what comes in the aftermath of something like that, and it is healing, and you've expressed it so heartfully and so beautifully and so lovingly, and really I hear wisely in the sense of knowing that it's simply something that has to unfold in its own time, and it will shape you and it will challenge you, and it comes with all of the fear of whether you can, have a baby again. And you don't know. So keep in mind that, the mind will always close the narratives when that's really uncalled for, and because of the not knowing. So there's a certain potential for healing right in that. And I'm not just talking about in your heart or in the aftermath of the loss, but I'm talking about actually your body finding its way to come back to, homeostasis, to integrate itself once again, so that it may, be possible to and carry a baby to term, and you don't know it, and circumstances change, and it sounds to me like you know that in a very deep way, and doesn't make the sadness one bit less, but it does add another dimension to not repair to so much as to just hold the dimensions of loss and sadness. And, what you said, I mean, it brings back so much for me immediately. What I've been saying about the answers lie right next to the questions and everybody. So your articulateness, your ability to articulate the universe that you're living in the moment is so obviously wise and powerful and creative, that in terms of your job and your next job and your bravery to actually end something that felt unfulfilling, if not toxic and disregarding of your strength and power, you couldn't have actually, as you say, picked a better time on the planet to do that, because especially as you use the word minority, but especially as a woman, in tech, where there's been so many barriers against a real sort of allowing the flourishing to take place in a way that would just be true freedom. And now is the time that that's happening in spades. It has to happen in spades, certainly in this country. I don't know about tech in the UK, but it's huge. And Apple is putting $100 million, and maybe that's just the first small ante for them, into really addressing these kinds of long-standing disregard and abuse of women in tech, where it's never been a level playing field. So again, what I've just said is a kind of a preamble, or a kind of just an encouragement for you to do that. Keep sustaining that deep listening and the deep embracing of the pain, the loss, the disregard, and also the potential flourishing that's already happening in your own heart, the healing that's happening in your own heart, and also the creativity around work, life. I would never say work-life balance, but work and life in a way that nurtures what wants to be nurtured in you, your unique way. That's what more and more companies really want. and they look good too. So they get a little extra sometimes for hiring people of color because, you know, they can say, oh, look what we're doing to be so transforming the culture of a high-tech institution is non-trivial, and it requires all of us to, in some sense, undergo what I often call an orthogonal rotation in consciousness. And whether people understand what I mean by that or not, it's meant to be a kind of koan, so that it's like we're transforming the world by metabolizing what it is uh, that we're carrying, the ways in which we're suffering, which is, again, the root meaning of the word to suffer is to carry, and therefore what the openings are that you're going to actually find for yourself. They're everywhere.
Yeah, I do believe that things, by being open to kind of change and wanting something different, I mean, things are looking possible at the moment in that
Yeah,
sense.
and this is, I'm not talking pie in the sky romantic nonsense, okay? I'm talking about like embodying the full dimensionality of your integrity and beauty and what you most love on the family side and on the work side. That's, you know, they'll never pay you enough money for that. But that is exactly what's needed in the world today in terms of work.
And in those moments of complete powerlessness, like, what would you suggest I do when I feel I have these days where, I mean, some days I feel like I want to fight, like I feel powerful, and some days I just feel beaten. Like today is a day where I feel beaten and powerless.
So the again, I mean, this is kind of not formulaic at all, but it could sound that way. The you, let's put it in these terms, kind of a little bit dualistic, but the you that knows that you're feeling low energy or defeated or powerless, is that you powerless?
I don't know. I don't know.
Good. Stay with that not knowing and keep asking. Because I can feel that, yeah, of course, we all go through sort of deep, dark moments, despair, even lack of confidence in our own capacity. Doesn't matter how smart you are, how, you know, how high you rise in certain hierarchies, what people project onto you. There are always these moments where we feel like, you know, we can't do it. We're not the right person. We don't have what it takes. All of those little narratives in there. Or they narratives about how they'll never see the what I'm really offering them or whatever. But these are kind of, again, the theme that's been running through the entire time we've been together. Watch out for those narratives because they're not true enough. Even if certain aspects of it seem true, they're nowhere near true enough. There's another narrative, and that's what I'm pointing to. Only it's not a narrative, it's a kind of universe, which, you know, I'm pointing to by inviting you to be aware of those moments when you feel really dark and at a loss and powerless and depressed, and then investigate whether the awareness of those mind states and body states, that constellation of view that's so dark, whether your awareness is at all captured in that view, or whether it can hold your beauty. I've been using these terms all along, your love, your beauty, call it intelligences, insight, creativity. Uh, you know, we have bad days. We have really terrible days, and you've gone through so much, and you've used the word traumatic. There's no question that it's traumatic. So this is where the practice can be absolutely essential. We do it for no reason whatsoever other than to embrace the actuality of what is. So it's not to like, even to heal. That's a little bit of a conceit. If we still we're attached to an outcome or we're attached to a path. But what this has been pointing to is that when the attachment ligates you, holds you back, uh, but as soon as you see the attachment, then in that moment, the awareness, you can ask, is it caught by any of the ropes, the fetters, the chains, the handcuffs, whatever you want to call it, that, at other times we will just have a dark view and say, yeah, it's hopeless. That's just a thought. You don't know. Does that make any sense to you?
It does make sense. I mean, I guess I have to accept that these thoughts will come. They
Well,
are,
yeah, what's the alternative?
yeah.
What is the alternative?
Um,
These thoughts
I
will
mean,
come. Why shouldn't
um,
they come? I mean, look what you've been
yeah,
through. And
yeah,
look what you initiated by ending your job for very good reasons. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge amount of uncertainty. And this is in the midst of this crazy time we're in, pandemic and everything else. So is there a way in which it's possible to just gentle yourself, cut yourself some slack, give yourself some time, and in the no time of the present moment, recognize that you're already whole, you're already complete. You don't know what's going to unfold in terms of motherhood, but the not knowing should not build itself into some story of despair or impossibility. Not yet, anyway. And so, and why ever? But take it if you're taking each moment as it comes.
yeah. I mean, at this point, I said all things are possible. We have no idea.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that's openness. That's a kind of road forward, so to speak. And I'm not asking you to go into more thinking on the basis of what I've been saying. What I'm asking you is to sort of feel your way into the direction that I'm pointing to, pointing out. And you don't have to do it right here in real time with me. Ultimately, you know, you are practicing, no matter what you do, whether you formally sitting in meditation every day or not, as long as you're holding what's unfolding in awareness and not attached to an outcome or noticing how attached you are to outcomes or how upset you are about other outcomes, that awareness is about the most trustworthy thing on this planet for humans and the most healing and the most transformative that I've been able to see. And there's a lot of evidence for that in a lot of different epistemologies, so to speak. So I want to just say how much I wish you well, and you go for it. And you don't look like the kind of person that's going to ever sell yourself short, but you've been through an awful lot. So I hope you're also the kind of person that can really cut yourself a huge amount of slack, particularly at a moment like this. And
thank
then,
you. Thank you.
when we come back, if we ever come back, you can let us know how it's, unfolded in a year or two or three or five or something like that. If you care to share,
Uh,
sort of another snapshot from another time.
it would be my pleasure to share again. And
Okay.
thank you so much for this moment. And I will watch this again and again. It's just, I mean, your teachings are amazing. And I hope that I can hold them even
They're not
when I
really teachings.
Zoom
There's
ends.
two people having, talking with each other and reflecting about what might be possible. So I'm kind of just reminding you of what you already know. And then, sort of we become our own greatest teachers, so to speak, or life becomes the real teacher and the curriculum. And how we are in relationship to it makes all the difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny, please.
Thank you so much.